Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine I would stand frozen at the threshold of my own bedroom, uncertainty gripping my heart, not because I had misplaced my keys, not because I had overlooked anything. Yet, a deep-seated fear gripped me, a fear of the unknown lurking just beyond the threshold of what, or who, might await me on the other side. That night, I found myself paralyzed, caught in the grip of an unseen force. My fingers curled around the doorknob, a mix of anticipation and dread coursing through me. My heart thundered in my chest, each beat resonating like a drum down the dimly lit hallway. And the silence enveloped me. The air was heavy and suffocating, a silence so thick it envelops you, pressing against your ears, amplifying your thoughts until they echo in the stillness, each one sharper and more vivid than before. Little did I know, a storm was brewing on the horizon, ready to upend everything I thought I knew, without a hint of foreboding, not a second to brace oneself, a fleeting glimpse, a fleeting glimpse, a fleeting glimpse of a secret I was never meant to uncover. It began with a single moment, a fleeting glimpse of Ethan's actions that would change everything. Ethan, my stepson, stood at the edge of the shadows, a figure caught between two worlds. Now, before your imagination takes flight, I need you to grasp something crucial. This tale is not one that flows effortlessly from the lips. The atmosphere is heavy, devoid of any lightness. It lacks charm, and it certainly isn't straightforward. It's a tale that twists and turns, leaving a tight knot of tension in your gut, the kind that jolts you awake at 3 a.m., leaving you in the stillness of the dark, grappling with the haunting question. How did I end up here? How did I end up here? For I am no villain, lurking in the shadows. This was never part of my plan. This was never my choice. I was merely a woman shrouded in the shadows of her solitude, had long since lost the memory of what it meant to be truly seen. And Ethan, he locked his gaze onto me. Yet, I find myself racing ahead of the unfolding tale. Allow me to transport you to another time. Not to the precise moment just yet, but to the events that unraveled and brought me to that pivotal point, to that door. The pause lingered in the air, thick with unspoken words. The choice loomed before them, heavy with consequence. Have you ever stepped into a house that seems flawless from the outside? The lawn stretched out like a verdant carpet. The driveway gleamed under the sun, and vibrant flowers danced in the gentle breeze on the porch. Yet within, it's merely a gathering of souls donning masks of pretense. That was where my heart resided. A husband consumed by the relentless grind of work. A voice reached out to me, casual and familiar, as if we were colleagues sharing the same space, who had never laid a finger on me. It struck a deep chord within me. In nearly 2 years. Each week, I found myself tallying the moments he cast his gaze in my direction. In the end, I lost track entirely. And then, Ethan arrived. Aged 19, he carried an air of politeness and respect, yet his silence spoke volumes. After a series of tumultuous events with his mother, he found himself moving in, seeking refuge and a fresh start. I kept my silence, knowing it was not my role to pry. Yet, at times, a haunting glimmer flickered in his gaze, as if he bore a weight that pressed down on him, straining his every step. Isn't it intriguing how those who are shattered can instinctively recognize one another? Yet, I maintained my distance. I had no choice but to act. I held the title of his stepmother. I prepared a meal, purified, inquired about his courses. I remained steadfast on my chosen path, until that fateful night. That singular moment. It was in that fleeting moment, a glimpse into the forbidden, that I stumbled upon a truth I was never meant to uncover. As I stumbled upon Ethan in a moment that felt achingly intimate, a wave of emotion washed over me, leaving me breathless. But what deepened the darkness? What truly plunged the blade deeper? Did that have anything to do with me? How I longed to turn away and let it slip from my mind. How I longed to face him, to challenge him directly. So many thoughts swirl within me, yearning to break free. Yet, what lies beneath the surface? The reality is far more tangled than it appears. And if you have ever found yourself in solitude, in a house bustling with life, I felt an overwhelming sense of solitude, as if I were the only soul adrift in a sea of faces. Have you ever strolled by a mirror, only to be confronted by a stranger's gaze, a woman you barely recognize staring back at you? Have you ever yearned for a fleeting moment of connection so intensely that it sent a shiver down your spine? Perhaps, just perhaps, you will grasp the intricate web of events that led to this moment. Before I delve deeper, let me ask you this. Have you ever borne a secret so weighty that it pressed down on your chest with relentless force, day in and day out? Have you ever felt the urge to unleash the truth, yet hesitated, fearing the way others might gaze upon you once the words escaped your lips? Smash that like button. Welcome to the shocking infidelity saga, a realm where real stories unfold, challenging your perceptions of love, loyalty, and the depths of the human heart. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew. Join us and become part of a community that embraces the depths of emotion. Here, judgment has no place. Allow me to transport you to that fateful night, into the dimly lit hallway, into the stillness. Before the door, uncertainty gripped me, a hesitation that clawed at my resolve. Yet they went ahead regardless. I once envisioned that being a stepmom would wrap around me like a comforting embrace, as if caressed by a soft breeze. A gentle embrace of warmth and care, guiding another's journey towards growth, providing direction. A sanctuary where one can find solace and rest, yet it seemed merely like another item to check off a never-ending list. Venture into the bustling aisles of the market, where the scent of fresh produce mingles with the chatter of fellow shoppers. Each item on your list beckons, promising a meal filled with flavor and warmth. The journey for groceries begins, a quest for nourishment and delight. Confront the mountain of laundry, reach out to Ethan. A smile flickers across the dinner table, a beacon of warmth in the heavy silence that envelops the room, where words hang unspoken in the air. I stand at the age of 38. 7 years of marriage have woven a tapestry of shared moments and unbreakable bonds. Once I believed fortune smiled upon me, my husband, Mark, is a man of remarkable success. He delivers. We meticulously crafted our lives, ensuring a beautiful home stood as our sanctuary. 2 cars gleamed in the driveway. Insurance provided a safety net, and a retirement plan loomed on the horizon, promising security for the future. Yet, he ceased to meet my gaze ages ago. It didn't even feel like it was aimed at me. It seemed as if he had simply lost the way. Forgot how to make me feel like I was important, how to engage with me without the distraction of his phone interrupting our conversation. How can you sit beside me and transform this moment from mere coworkers, sharing a break room, into something electric and unforgettable? He spends much of his time away from home, journeys for work, gatherings of minds, where ideas collide and innovation sparks to life, encounters that stretch into the early hours of dawn. At times, a message flickers to life on the screen, a simple check-in that stirs a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. At times, he simply doesn't. Yet, what pierced the heart most deeply was the haunting silence that enveloped the house. Not from peace, but from the shadows of distance. The silence thickened, wrapping around the room like a shroud, the moment Ethan stepped inside. At just 19, Ethan stands on the precipice of adulthood, his journey unfolding with every heartbeat. Mark's son, born from the remnants of his first marriage, carries the weight of a past that lingers like a shadow. He was never meant to be part of our lives. He lived by his own rules, moving to the beat of his own heart, all while navigating the tangled web of his complex relationship with his mother. Yet, an unspoken tension lingered between them, a shadowy secret that hovered just out of reach, something that everyone sensed but dared not discuss. Before I could fully grasp what was happening, he was hauling in boxes, transforming the guest room down the hall into something new and unknown. At first, a whirlwind of emotions swirled within me, leaving me uncertain of how to truly feel. He's not my son, after all. Yet, an undeniable weight of responsibility clung to me, gnawing at my conscience. I began crafting more elaborate dinners. Messages clung to the fridge like whispers in the night. I inquired about his classes, but all I received in return was a dismissive shrug, or a barely audible, "It's fine." He moved through the world with a quiet grace, his demeanor polite and respectful, a calm presence that belied the storm brewing beneath the surface. Yet, Within him lingered a profound sadness, as if he bore a burden far heavier than any young soul ought to endure. Occasionally, I would feel his gaze upon me, not in a way that seemed inappropriate, but rather in a manner that was distinctly unusual. It was as if he glimpsed the truth hidden beneath my facade. Perhaps that was the very thing that filled me with dread. Because Mark had become a ghost in my life, slipping further away with each passing day. Not the person I truly was beneath the layers of makeup and the rehearsed smiles. Not the woman who wept in the shower, tears cascading down like a hidden storm, releasing emotions she couldn't quite articulate. Ethan remained silent, his words trapped within him. Yet, his silence carried a weight that was unlike Mark's. It kept its doors wide open to me. It beckoned me closer, an irresistible call that stirred my curiosity. The house loomed ominously, its presence heavy and foreboding, vast, pristine, and frigid. Everything was in perfect order. It wasn't just a photo frame askew. You might imagine that a place like that would wrap you in a sense of safety, a cocoon of comfort. Yet, it seemed more akin to a museum. It felt as if we were merely actors in a grand performance, meticulously maintaining our facades, too fearful to confront the raw truths lurking beneath the surface. We gathered around the dining table, 3 chairs occupied, yet an unsettling emptiness lingered in the air. With each bite, Mark's fingers danced over the screen, scrolling through a cascade of emails that flickered like shadows in the dim light. Ethan's gaze remained fixed on his plate, as if the food held the answers to unspoken questions. What about me? A smile would spread across my face. I would engage in casual conversation. I would inquire about the events of everyone's day. In the stillness that followed, I would gather the dishes, each clatter echoing in the quiet room. As it has always been, sometimes I found myself lingering at the kitchen sink long after the plates had been scrubbed clean, clutching the sponge tightly, my gaze lost in the world beyond the window. Lost in a haze, thoughts drifted aimlessly, untethered and free. Embracing the stillness as it envelops me completely. It's hard to pinpoint the moment everything began to change. When Ethan's presence shifted from an unwelcome intrusion to a reflective mirror, everything changed. Perhaps it was the way he expressed his gratitude after dinner, a quiet acknowledgement that lingered in the air long after the plates were cleared, even when others remained silent. Or how he would catch the slightest shift, like the glint of a new necklace or the subtle change in the way my hair fell, parted on the other side. Or perhaps it was simply that he noticed my presence. It wasn't the gaze of a man upon a woman, not just yet. Yet, the way a person gazes at another, truly perceiving the fractures within them, it was never love. It was not desire. It was a moment of profound recognition, and that sort of thing. The kind of attention that draws you in, holding you captive in its gaze. It creeps in quietly, catching you off guard. It stirs a curiosity within, leaving you to ponder the hidden treasures that have slipped through your fingers, and what lengths you might go to experience that sensation once more. One fateful night, I returned home sooner than I had anticipated. It unfolded unexpectedly. The meeting I had been anticipating was abruptly canceled, and once more, Mark was nowhere to be found, off on another trip. As I drove into the driveway, a shroud of darkness enveloped the house, save for the faint, warm orange glow seeping from Ethan's window upstairs, casting an eerie yet inviting aura in the stillness of the night. The house stood silent, as if it were suspended in time, waiting for something to break the tension in the air. I eased the front door open, moving with a stealth that suggested I was wary of disturbing the very air within. Perhaps I simply wished to keep my return a secret. Uncertainty loomed like a shadow, wrapping around the words that hung in the air. A creak echoed through the silence, the kind that sends a shiver down your spine, as if it knows you're not meant to be there. The living room lay in eerie stillness, a haunting testament to the passage of time, untouched and frozen in a moment that felt both familiar and unsettling. The sink lay empty, a quiet testament to the absence of clutter. The TV sat in silence, its screen flickering with images that echoed a world of sound. Yet the room remained eerily quiet. The soft hum of silence enveloped the space, a presence that felt as if it were observing every breath, every heartbeat. I ascended the staircase, my mind racing with the possibility that Ethan was either buried in homework or lost in slumber, the light casting a glow in the darkness. As I ascended the landing, a sound pierced the silence, sending a shiver down my spine. Silence reigned. Silence enveloped the room, thick and heavy, as words hung unspoken in the air. Something more gentle. Something more gentle. The pulse of the moment echoed, a steady beat that resonated through the air. Whispered. My heart raced, a sudden jolt of adrenaline coursing through me. I convinced myself that I had no desire to breach the sanctity of his privacy. I urged myself to move forward, step by step, no matter what. Yet, an unseen force compelled me to halt. The door stood ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning from within. Only a whisper of change. A thin beam of warm light seeped into the hallway, casting a soft glow that beckoned the shadows to retreat. Just enough for me to catch the whispers that were never meant for my ears. And just enough for my eyes to behold. I had no intention of eavesdropping. I had no intention of seeking anything out, but my eyes seized it before my mind could even begin to comprehend. He lay on his bed, his back subtly arched, fingers gliding beneath the blanket. The glow of his laptop screen cast an eerie light across his face, illuminating the shadows that danced in the corners of the room. In that fleeting instant, the air vanished from my lungs. It wasn't about his actions. It was the spectacle before him that held his gaze. It was me. It took a heartbeat to comprehend, for it was steeped in age. A video that lingered in the shadows of my memory, waiting to be unearthed. Mark and I, from years gone by. It was one of those intimate moments we captured during a fleeting night of fervor, a time when passion still ignited our souls. The memory of its hiding place eluded me completely. I believed it had vanished forever, yet it stood before me. Ethan's gaze was fixed upon it, captivated by the unfolding scene. They are watching me. Silence enveloped me, a heavy cloak that muffled even the faintest whisper of breath. He simply stood there, frozen in place, encased in ice. A primal urge clawed at my insides, urging me to crash through the door, to seize the laptop, to unleash a torrent of words. Yet another fragment, the one I wished to forget, remained frozen in place. I retreated cautiously, my breath hitching in my throat, my hands trembling uncontrollably. The hallway closed in around her, the air heavy with an unsettling tension. I entered my room and closed the door softly, as if retreating into the shadows, a specter seeking refuge from the world outside. And then, the world shifted. I stood frozen in place, gazing into the void. Her mouth felt parched, a desert of silence stretching across her tongue, heart pounding. A surge of emotion washed over me. Revulsion coursed through me, shattered, lost in a whirlwind of thoughts. Yet, there was something more lurking beneath the surface. A shadow I hesitated to acknowledge. It wasn't the fact that Ethan's eyes were fixed on me that sent a chill down my spine. The most agonizing aspect was the way it consumed my emotions. Unfazed, not disgusted, yet witnessed, desperately sought after, and a deep loathing for myself consumed me in that moment. Perched on the edge of my bed, trembling, I struggled to piece it all together. What is it about that video that draws you in? How on earth did he uncover it? Was he aware that I had witnessed him? Was he trying to reveal something to me? I struggled to convince myself it was merely an accident, that he unexpectedly stumbled upon it, that it held no significance. Yet, beneath the surface, a truth stirred within me, undeniable and profound. His gaze had shifted, a lingering intensity that sent shivers down my spine. Gentle. Intrigued. I felt as though I was meant to be more than just his stepmother. As the night enveloped me, I cocooned myself in a soft robe and settled atop the covers, the world outside fading into a distant whisper. Eyes wide, filled with an unquenchable curiosity, gazing up at the ceiling, lost in thought. Hauntingly, the image replayed in her mind, each iteration more vivid than the last. It was more than mere sight. Yet, what coursed through me, because a profound change had taken place. Despite my desperate attempts to convince myself it was merely a fleeting moment, deep down, I understood it marked the dawn of something far greater. The following morning, I wore a mask of normalcy, concealing the turmoil that churned within me. A smile crept across my face. Steam curled from the freshly poured coffee, filling the air with its rich aroma, a warm invitation to the senses. He turned to Ethan, a question lingering in the air. "Do you want toast?" He uttered the word, "yes," just as he always had, a familiar echo in the silence that surrounded them, courteous, serene, as if the world had settled into a comfortable routine. Yet, everything felt profoundly abnormal. It was a moment of finality, a declaration that echoed in the silence. Not anymore. I sat across from him at the kitchen table, the steam curling up from my cup like whispers of secrets untold, my stomach churning with each agonizing second that ticked by. He held my gaze unwavering, yet he did not pursue them either. He sat there, the silence wrapping around him like a thick fog, each bite echoing in the stillness, as ordinary as any other day yet heavy with unspoken tension. Perhaps that was the very thing that deepened the darkness. The uncertainty loomed like a shadow, wrapping around every thought and whispering doubts into the mind. Was he aware that I witnessed it? Did shame grip him? Was he hoping I would catch a glimpse? But was it truly nothing more than a blunder? Could it be a cruel twist of fate? The entire day slipped away as I fought to erase it from my mind. I scrubbed surfaces that were already spotless. Bookshelves transformed, their contents meticulously rearranged, each volume now holding a new story waiting to be discovered. The pantry was transformed, every item meticulously arranged, creating a sense of order amidst the chaos. Yet, each time I shut my eyes, the vision haunted me. The haunting image lingered in the mind, a vivid snapshot that refused to fade away. That pivotal moment, he stood there, a figure shrouded in mystery, drawing the gaze of all who passed. His presence was magnetic, an unspoken promise of adventure and danger intertwined. In that moment, everything else faded away, leaving only the weight of his unyielding stare. They were watching me. I convinced myself it was merely a flicker of curiosity. Perhaps he stumbled upon the video by sheer chance. Perhaps he clicked, oblivious to the consequences that awaited him. Yet, as time stretched on, a deeper understanding began to unfurl within me. It was something else entirely. It was no mere coincidence. Every action was intentional, a calculated move in a game where the stakes were life and death. What sent a chill down my spine, even more than the realization itself, was the tumult of emotions swirling within me. Amidst the chaos, the disarray, and the heavy weight of embarrassment, a peculiar, haunting exhilaration pulsed beneath the surface. It filled me with a deep-seated loathing. I loathed myself for it. Yet it lingered in the shadows. A sick flutter stirred in my chest, as if something long dormant had suddenly come to life. Suddenly, a world previously hidden began to unfold before my eyes. Or perhaps the truths I had been deliberately overlooking. As I crouched to retrieve an item from the depths of the low cabinet, Ethan's gaze pierced through me, heavy with unspoken thoughts. He hovered in the kitchen after dinner, his gaze fixed on me as I scrubbed and wiped, an unspoken tension hanging in the air. His eyes shifted with a purpose, neither rude nor aggressive, but with an unmistakable intent. It felt as if he was looking into my soul, a gaze that pierced through the years of solitude and isolation, revealing a depth of understanding that had long been absent from my life. And once I laid my eyes on it, it was forever etched in my mind. It felt like an eternity since someone had gazed at me with such intensity. Mark once did, in the early days of our union, in the days of our beginnings, in those moments when he would sneak up behind me as I stood at the stove. His arms would encircle me, and I could feel the warmth of his breath against my skin as he pressed a soft kiss to the back of my neck. That version of him vanished into the shadows, lost somewhere between the third and fourth year. Now, if his fingers brushed against me, it was merely a fleeting moment, a gentle touch on the shoulder. A sudden tap on the arm jolted him from his thoughts, cold and unyielding, empty, the kind of touch that whispers secrets, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken desire that lingers in the air, offering a fleeting connection that both ignites and haunts. yet Ethan's glances held a depth that was anything but hollow. And once that truth dawned on me, I became acutely attuned to his every move. The moment he stepped into the room, a shiver ran down my spine, even before I turned to face him. His footsteps echoed softly, each step lingering in the air around me. Gentler. As he spoke, his voice lowered slightly, as if he were sharing a secret meant only for my ears, not merely in my vicinity. What about me? Transformation began to take hold within me as well. Initially, it was just a whisper. Initially, it was just a whisper. Innocuous, I reassured myself. I allowed my robe to drape a bit more freely in the mornings. I slipped into a tank top, the fabric clinging to my skin, as I moved through the kitchen, the scent of breakfast wafting in the air. I didn't do it for him. I did it for myself, for the fire that burned within me, urging me to break free from the chains of expectation. I repeated those words to myself, over and over. Yet deep down, I understood that the truth lay elsewhere. As I stood before the mirror, I realized I was transforming my appearance in ways I never expected. Take your time. With heightened caution, selecting fabrics that embrace the body in all the right ways. As the possibility of him passing my room loomed closer, I found myself lingering by the door, heart racing, savoring every fleeting moment. Her hair cascaded down, unpinned and wild. The warmth of the shower still clung to her skin, a lingering embrace that whispered secrets of steam and solitude. Self-loathing consumed me for it, yet I pressed on. And when our eyes locked, those two lingering glances across the kitchen or down the hall, I held my gaze steady. I should have. Yet, I refrained. Instead, an insatiable hunger began to consume me, yearning for the spotlight. The pulse of that energy, the heat that had eluded me for so long, surged back, igniting memories I thought were lost to time. It was never about Ethan. Initially, it was not the case. The story unfolded around me, about the exhilarating sensation of truly being alive once more. It felt as if someone was watching me. And yet every night as I lay down to sleep, the guilt surged in like an unstoppable tide, overwhelming me completely. Something was amiss. It felt utterly, irrevocably wrong. He was the son of my husband. Though our paths had never intertwined closely, though our time together beneath the same roof was brief, it felt like a lifetime. It was irrelevant. Yet, the boundary between what was deemed appropriate and what was forbidden had become a mere shadow, indistinct and wavering. It was a sight that stirred the soul, transforming. It grew increasingly difficult to discern. With each passing day, the pull grew stronger, drawing me ever closer to the inevitable. With a single glance, everything changed. It began with the smallest of details. From a distance, they appeared innocent, their true nature hidden beneath a veil of simplicity. Yet, as I drew nearer, their facade of innocence shattered completely. As I trudged home from the store, bags weighing heavily in both hands, my arms screamed in protest. As I fumbled with the keys, the door swung open unexpectedly, before my knuckles even grazed the wood. In the dim light of the room, a single name echoed, reverberating through the silence. Ethan. Silence enveloped him, a heavy shroud that lingered in the air. He reached out, his fingers grazing mine as he took the heavier bags from my arms. It was fleeting, yet the sensation lingered within me. It flickered like a spark, or perhaps lingered like an unanswered question, one that lingered in the silence between us, a question we both dared not voice. He brought them into the kitchen, placing them down with utmost care, as if they were fragile treasures that might shatter at the slightest touch. His gaze pierced through me, a deep, searching look that held a world of understanding, and he spoke with a weight that hung in the air. You shouldn't have to do all this alone. 6 haunting words. It was nothing more than that. Yet they remained by my side, because Mark had stopped uttering words like that altogether. Mark believed I would take care of it all. Amidst the bustling rhythm of daily life, the clatter of grocery bags echoed through the kitchen, where the aroma of spices danced in the air. Each chop of the knife was a note in a symphony of flavors, while the sweeping motion of a broom painted a canvas of order. As the clock ticked, plans unfolded, and a warm smile illuminated the chaos, weaving moments of joy into the fabric of routine. And somehow, Ethan, just 19, saw deeper than the man I had been bound to for 7 long years. From that moment on, our conversations took a different turn. They plunged further into the abyss. Initially, it was nothing more than casual exchanges, fleeting conversations in the kitchen that danced around music, school, and the pages of books. But then he began to probe with questions that cut deep. Once upon a time, in a world woven with dreams and aspirations, there existed a soul with a story to tell. This individual, shaped by experiences and encounters, embarked on a journey of self-discovery, navigating the twists and turns of life. Each chapter unfolded with vibrant colors, revealing passions, challenges, and triumphs that defined their essence. This is the tale of a life lived with purpose, a narrative waiting to be explored. In the tapestry of my existence, each thread weaves a tale of triumphs and tribulations, a journey marked by moments that pulse with intensity and emotion. Once, I was someone entirely different before I stepped into the life of his father. As I spoke, he hung on every word. Not with that distracted, half-nodding glance Mark shot my way from behind the glow of his laptop screen. Ethan absorbed every sound, every whisper, with an intensity that enveloped him completely. He leaned in, the air thick with anticipation, locked eyes with me. They responded in ways that pierced through the surface, making me feel truly seen and understood. Anticipation began to swell within me. To him, the world felt like a canvas waiting to be painted with the colors of his dreams. On a shadowy night, Mark found himself away from home once more. The dim light of the living room wrapped around me like a warm embrace as I cradled a glass of wine, the flickering images of an old movie casting shadows on the walls, whispering stories of the past. Ethan stepped inside, pausing for a moment, before finally sinking into the far end of the couch. Silence stretched between us, heavy and unyielding. Silently, I observed. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The couple on screen shared a passionate kiss. Gradually, with a deep sense of yearning, a shiver coursed through my body, every muscle tightening in anticipation. I averted my gaze from him. I was under no obligation to do so. The air around me crackled with an unmistakable tension. Moments later, my hand instinctively moved toward the remote, anticipation coursing through me. He arrived just then. Our hands brushed against each other, a fleeting connection that sent a jolt through the air. We both came to a sudden halt, just long enough for it to carry weight. Then he retracted his hand, a sudden tension hanging in the air. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence. I shook my head, silence hanging heavy in the air, but the words "it's okay" never crossed my lips. I was unable to do it, because it simply wasn't. From that moment on, the touches grew more frequent, each one igniting a spark of anticipation. More, with intention. His fingers brushed mine as he handed me the salt, just for a second, but long enough to make me freeze. His arm brushed against mine, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through the air as we stood too close in the dimly lit hallway. A hand pressed gently against the small of my back as he moved aside, granting me passage through the door. Insignificant details, simple to dismiss, but I fell silent. A part of me yearned for them to continue, to linger in that moment just a little longer. I felt an irresistible pull to seek him out. She lingered in the kitchen, the seconds stretching into an eternity, her heart racing with the hope that he would finally come down. As twilight descended upon the garden, each step felt heavy with the weight of anticipation, the shadows whispering secrets of his possible presence, lurking just beyond the fading light. With my bedroom door left ajar, just a whisper of space between the frame and the wall, I stepped into the unknown. And then the haunting notes began to echo through the air. It lay hidden within the pages of a book I had carelessly abandoned on the couch. Only 5 words, scrawled in chaotic handwriting. "There's a depth to you that eludes their gaze." My gaze lingered on it, time slipping away as I became lost in its depths. A few days later, the second one appeared, stealthily tucked beneath the sugar bowl on the kitchen counter. "You deserve to be truly seen, not just looked at." And then another. "If I could turn back the hands of time, my journey would begin with you." Every note sent a shiver through my chest, tightening its grip with an intensity that was almost unbearable. Not with guilt, but with a deep, lingering ache, a longing for something forever out of reach, a desire that defies reason. I stashed them away, concealed in a drawer beneath a tangle of dusty scarves and long-forgotten birthday cards. Yet, in the stillness of the night, I would draw them out, savoring each word as if they were love letters from a life I had never known, whispering secrets of a forgotten past. One fateful afternoon, as I busied myself tidying the living room, my hand brushed against Ethan's sketchbook, sending it tumbling to the floor. It was never my intention to pry it open. As I reached for it, my fingers brushed against the spine, and I felt a surge of anticipation, poised to return it to its rightful place among the countless stories waiting to be discovered. Yet the page lay open before me, its secrets waiting to be unveiled. And there I stood, heart racing, the world around me fading into a blur, rendered with the delicate touch of pencil strokes, gentle, intricate. Perched on the edge of my bed, I ran the brush through my hair, each stroke a moment of quiet reflection. The memory surged back, vivid and unyielding. It was merely a week ago. Little did I realize he had been lurking in the shadows, observing my every move, my gaze locked onto the sketch, my hand quivering with anticipation. He had seized a moment so profound, so unfiltered. It was as if I were gazing into a mirror, reflecting a forgotten fragment of my soul, a version of myself that had long since faded into the shadows. Not the weary spouse, far from being the unseen specter. Yet, a longing stirred within. Could it be a figment of my imagination, or was he beckoning something forth? I whispered to myself, urging my feet to retreat, to resist the pull that beckoned me closer. The peril of the situation loomed large. This was undeniably wrong. This was undeniably wrong. I was dancing with flames in a dwelling crafted from brittle timber. Yet I pressed on, undeterred. The door remained ajar, a silent invitation to the unknown. The notes remained, untouched and lingering in the shadows of my mind. The sketch remained, untouched and lingering in the shadows of my mind. I pressed on, undeterred by the obstacles in my path. Each fleeting moment unfolds like a whisper in the vast expanse of time, and buried within the shadows. I could feel the path unfolding before me, each step drawing me closer to the inevitable conclusion. The night it happened, the sky roared with fury. Thunder rolled low in the distance, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the very core of your being. The rain pounded relentlessly, battering the windows as if it were desperate to break through. Mark was away, once more. A gathering of minds, a convergence of ideas, a conference this time, in a place bathed in golden sunlight, I believe. I never inquired. The house pulsed with an unfamiliar energy, not merely silent, but electric with tension. The air was thick, as if the world itself was pausing, suspended in a moment of anticipation. As the clock struck 9, darkness enveloped the room as the power flickered and vanished. In an instant, the world was swallowed by total darkness. The refrigerator stood silent, its hum a distant memory. The hallway lay shrouded in darkness, the nightlight extinguished, leaving an unsettling void in its wake. Only the heavy silence enveloped the space, broken solely by the relentless drumming of rain against the roof. As the flickering flames danced to life, I carefully arranged the candles throughout the living room, casting shadows that whispered secrets in the dim light. The flickering light cast an eerie glow, causing the shadows to writhe and twist in a haunting ballet. The tempest raged outside, a mere whisper against the chaos brewing within me. Ethan descended the staircase, each step echoing in the stillness of the house. He stood there, clad only in loose sweatpants, droplets of water clinging to his damp hair, a casual yet captivating presence in the dim light. He halted in his tracks, the flickering candle casting shadows that danced across his face as he locked eyes with me. Then a faint smile flickered across their lips. "Are you all right?" he inquired. I nodded, my resolve firm as I fought to prevent the house from descending into darkness. He sat across from me on the floor, our eyes locked over the flickering candlelight that danced between us on the coffee table. Our words intertwined in the air, each syllable a thread weaving a tapestry of connection. At first, it seemed trivial, a mere recollection of childhood innocence. The storm outside unleashed its fury, stirring memories of a time when he would curl up beneath thick blankets, convinced that the rumbling thunder was nothing more than giants engaged in a game of bowling high above the clouds. I laughed, not out of amusement, but because his voice wrapped around me like a warm embrace, a reminder of the humanity that still lingered in the air. Then the silence enveloped them, stretching out like a vast, uncharted expanse, not awkward but rich with unspoken words and hidden depths. His gaze pierced through me, a deep, searching look that unraveled my resolve. I felt the weight of it, and I knew I couldn't withstand it any longer. I inquired, my voice barely a breath. Why that particular video? I caught a glimpse of the truth in his gaze before the words escaped his lips, for it was the sole moment I witnessed you being truly cherished. Those words shattered the barriers I had built within, unleashing a torrent of emotions I had kept locked away for years. Silence enveloped the moment, heavy and unyielding. I was unable to do it. I gazed at him, the candlelight dancing between us, casting shadows that shrank the room, wrapping us in a cocoon of closeness and secrecy. He extended his hand cautiously, as if the slightest movement from me might send him recoiling in fear. His fingers brushed against my skin, sending a jolt of electricity through me. I remained steadfast, refusing to retreat. As his fingers brushed softly against mine, it felt as though the entire universe faded away, leaving just the two of us in a moment suspended in time. Amidst the raging storm, guilt hung heavy in the air, a weight forged from years of silence. It was only him and me, surrounded by the weight of unspoken words that hung heavily in the air. My eyes seared with an intensity that felt almost unbearable. The weight of sorrow pressed against my chest, a prelude to the inevitable cascade of tears that threatened to spill over. A single tear traced its way down my cheek. Without words, he reached out, offering silent comfort with a glance, the gesture both tender and decisive. And then, an eerie stillness enveloped the air. Silence enveloped the air, heavy and suffocating. Hold on for just a moment. And then he spoke to me, his voice soft, as if searching for my unspoken permission to continue, and I surrendered it. As our conversation deepened, a connection sparked, and in that moment, everything I thought I knew about myself began to shift. I can't recall the moment I found myself on my feet. The transition from the living room to the couch is a blur in my memory, a fleeting moment lost in the haze of the night. All that lingers in my mind is the searing heat, the touch of skin, the rhythm of breath. He cradled me in his arms, as if I were a delicate treasure, both precious and essential to his very being. In that moment, I released all the illusions of strength I had clung to. Our bodies communicated in a forgotten language, one that had lain dormant for years, now awakening with a fervor that sent shivers down my spine. In that fleeting moment, fear was a distant echo, absent from the air that surrounded them. Without a moment's pause, simply give in, to him, to the depths of my own thoughts, to the woman I once was, and the one I never had the chance to become. In the aftermath, we found ourselves entwined in the stillness, the flickering candle casting shadows as it burned low. I gazed up at the ceiling, my body alive with energy, my heart laid bare and vulnerable. In that moment, clarity washed over me like a tidal wave, and I understood everything. The moment it ended, I felt the weight of transformation settle around me, an undeniable shift in the very fabric of my existence. The path ahead was irrevocable, a point of no return. It cannot be undone. There is no denying the truth of what transpired. There is no justification that can mend the wrongs that have been done. We had crossed a line that didn't just blur. It shattered into 1,000 irretrievable pieces. An uncertainty gnawed at my very essence, leaving me questioning the core of my identity. The morning after, his presence felt like a shadow I couldn't bear to face. I stirred from sleep before the first light of dawn, enveloping myself in my robe as I descended the stairs. driven by an instinct to escape the shadows of the past that lingered behind me. The candle flickered one last time before succumbing to darkness, its waxy remnants pooling on the table like forgotten memories. The couch cushions bore the unmistakable imprints of a recent presence, their soft fabric still holding the weight of unspoken stories. The blanket we had wrapped ourselves in lay discarded on the floor, a silent witness to the chaos that had unfolded. The cacophony enveloped me, each sound piercing through the air, as if the room itself were wailing in anguish. With trembling hands, I brewed the coffee, each movement a struggle against the tension that gripped me. It sat there untouched, a silent witness to the moment. A restless urge clawed at me, demanding action, a distraction from the mundane. I craved purpose, something to fill the void of time. As his footsteps echoed on the stairs, a chill ran down my spine, and I found myself paralyzed in place. As he materialized in the doorway, his eyes glimmering with warmth, lips slightly parted as if on the brink of uttering something profound, I averted my gaze. The hope in his face was a weight I couldn't bear. Hope ignited within him, a flicker that whispered of possibilities yet to unfold, and I couldn't allow him to hold on to that illusion. He lingered in that moment, the world around him fading into a blur. Suspense hung in the air, thick and palpable. The seconds stretched into eternity as anticipation built, each tick of the clock echoing like a heartbeat. What lay ahead was unknown, but the weight of expectation pressed down, urging the moment to unfold. Yet I turned my back to him, feigning a focus on the counter that was already spotless. "Hey," he murmured softly. "Is it possible for us?" "Today is packed with tasks," I interjected. My voice echoed strangely, as if it belonged to someone else, constrained, severed. He halted, the air thick with anticipation. I averted my gaze from him. I was unable to do it. After a moment of contemplation, he finally spoke. "Okay." Silence enveloped the surroundings, wounded. And then he turned and disappeared into the shadows. I collapsed onto a stool, my heart racing and my stomach churning with unease. What had I unleashed upon the world? Every part of me throbbed with an unrelenting pain, not merely in a physical sense, but in a profound aching manner that resonates deep within. It felt as if a deep fissure had formed within me, and I was desperately attempting to seal it with trembling fingers. Throughout the day, I steered clear of him, each moment heavy with unspoken tension. When I caught the sound of him moving about upstairs, I remained rooted to the ground below. As I approached the kitchen, I held my breath, waiting for the silence to envelop me, ensuring that no sound of movement lingered in the air. I convinced myself that I was safeguarding him, yet deep down I knew I was merely concealing my own fears. From him came a whisper that sent shivers down her spine. From within me. From our actions. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the street, Mark finally returned home. His suitcase hit the floor with a heavy thud, and his voice rang out through the house, unnaturally bright, too cheerful for the shadows that lingered. A shiver ran down my spine. His lips brushed softly against my cheek. A shiver ran through me. He became aware. I could sense it in the subtle way his smile wavered. Yet, silence hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. Instead, he inquired about the dinner I had prepared. I pushed myself onward, balancing plates with a facade of normalcy, masking the turmoil beneath the surface. Yet, it was not. Silence reigned supreme. Ethan descended the stairs last, his pace languid and unhurried, as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. He averted his gaze, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily between us. He sat across the table, his plate untouched, a silent storm brewing in his eyes. My gaze remained fixed on my plate, a silent fortress against the world around me. Mark attempted to recount the thrilling details of his journey. I inquired of Ethan about his experiences at school. Attempted humor that fell flat. Silence enveloped us, a heavy weight that stifled any hint of laughter. After dinner, Ethan vanished into the shadows of the staircase, leaving an air of mystery in his wake. Mark's eyes pierced through me, sharp and unyielding. "Is everything all right?" "Indeed," I declared. It was all happening too fast. Exhaustion weighs heavily, a relentless shadow that clings to every thought and movement. He held back, He never did, not once, yet I could sense it lurking in the shadows. A chill crept down his spine, an unsettling feeling gnawing at the edges of his mind. Insufficient evidence to cast blame upon me, just enough to ignite curiosity. That night, as Mark's hand sought mine in the darkness of the bed, a shiver coursed through me, and I recoiled once more. I claimed a headache was consuming me. Silently, he turned away, the weight of unspoken thoughts hanging in the air. Drifted into a deep slumber. As I lay in the suffocating darkness, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, I could feel the tempest brewing within me, a storm raging with an intensity that echoed through my very soul. The days that followed plunged into a deeper abyss. Ethan hardly uttered a word to me. His eyes, once radiating warmth, now bore the weight of confusion intertwined with a deeper, darker emotion. Betrayal. I had bestowed upon him a precious gift, only to cruelly retract it in an instant. I allowed him to think there was a doorway, only to slam it shut with a finality that echoed in the silence. He felt a calmness wash over him. He felt a strange warmth enveloping him. He was merely pain, and it shattered my very soul. I fought to wipe it from my memory. Yet each room echoed the secrets of our actions. The worn couch sat in the dimly lit room, its fabric frayed and faded, holding secrets of countless conversations and quiet moments. Shadows danced across its surface, hinting at the stories it had witnessed, each crease and wrinkle a testament to the lives it had cradled. In this sanctuary of comfort, the air was thick with nostalgia, inviting anyone who dared to sink into its embrace and lose themselves in the echoes of the past. The dimly lit hallway stretched before her, shadows dancing along the walls, whispering secrets of the past. Each step echoed ominously, a reminder of the unknown lurking just beyond her sight. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for her next move. The staircase loomed ahead, its steps shrouded in shadows, beckoning with an air of mystery and unspoken secrets. In the dim light of the bathroom, the mirror revealed a stranger staring back at me, her features foreign and unsettling. I drifted through life, a mere specter of my former self. The weight of guilt bore down on me relentlessly, intertwining with a deep, persistent ache that refused to fade. The pain of a truth that lingered, hauntingly tangible, despite its inherent falsehood. Silence enveloped me, a heavy shroud that kept my thoughts locked away from the world. They are not my friends. He is not my husband. I hardly recognize myself anymore. So I donned the guilt-laden fragrance, clinging to my skin, unseen by many, yet ever present. And then there was Ethan. He fell into a deep silence, receded into the shadows, as if he were bracing himself against the violent repercussions of my decisions. Or perhaps, at last, he truly recognized me for who I really was. A woman adrift in her own desolation, yearning for a flicker of warmth, even if it seared her soul. The morning after, I found myself unable to meet his gaze. I stirred from sleep before the first light of dawn, enveloping myself in my robe, as I descended the stairs, driven by an instinct to escape the shadows of what had already transpired. The candle flickered one last time before succumbing to darkness, its waxy remnants pooling on the table like forgotten memories. The couch cushions bore the unmistakable imprints of a recent presence, a silent testament to the weight of moments shared and the stories woven into their fabric. The blanket we had wrapped ourselves in lay discarded on the floor, a silent witness to the chaos that had unfolded. The cacophony enveloped me, each sound piercing through the air like a desperate cry, as if the very walls were shouting in anguish. With trembling hands, I brewed the coffee, each movement a struggle against the tension that filled the air. It sat there, untouched, a silent witness to the moment. A restless urge stirred within, a craving for purpose in the stillness of the moment. As the sound of his footsteps echoed on the stairs, a chill ran down my spine, and I found myself paralyzed in place. As he stood in the doorway, his eyes gentle and his lips slightly parted, as if on the brink of speaking, I averted my gaze. Hope ignited within him, a flicker that whispered of possibilities yet to unfold, and I couldn't allow him to hold on to that illusion. He lingered in that moment, caught in the stillness of the air around him. Suspense hung in the air, thick and palpable. The seconds stretched into eternity, each tick of the clock echoing like a heartbeat in the silence. Anticipation crackled, a tension that could be sliced with a knife, waiting. Yet, I turned my back to him, feigning a focus on the counter that was already spotless. "Hey," he murmured softly. "Is it possible for us?" "Today is packed with tasks that demand my attention," I interjected. My voice echoed strangely, as if it belonged to someone else. The grip was unyielding, severed. He came to a sudden halt. I averted my gaze from him. I was unable to do it. After a brief pause, he finally spoke, his voice laced with contemplation. Silence enveloped the surroundings. Wounded. And then he turned and vanished into the shadows. I collapsed onto a stool, my heart racing and my stomach churning with unease. What had I unleashed upon the world? Every part of me throbbed with pain. Not merely in a physical sense, but in a profound, aching manner that resonates deep within. It felt as if a fissure had formed deep within me, and I was desperately attempting to seal it with trembling fingers. Throughout the day, I steered clear of him, each moment heavy with unspoken tension. When I caught the sound of him moving around upstairs, I remained rooted to the ground below. As I approached the kitchen, I held my breath, waiting for the sounds of movement to fade into silence. I convinced myself that I was shielding him from harm. Yet, beneath the surface, I was concealing a deeper reality. From him, a shadow loomed, whispering secrets of the past from within me. From our actions, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the street, Mark finally returned home, the weight of the day lingering in the air around him. With a heavy thud, his suitcase hit the floor, echoing in the silence of the room. His voice reverberated through the house, filling every shadowed corner with an unsettling resonance. Unremarkably ordinary, excessively bright. A shiver ran down my spine. His lips brushed against my cheek, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver down my spine. A shiver ran through me. He became aware. I could sense it in the subtle way his smile wavered. Yet, silence hung in the air, heavy and unbroken. Instead, he inquired about the dinner I had prepared. I pushed myself onward, balancing plates with a facade of normalcy, masking the turmoil beneath the surface. Yet it was not what it seemed. There was an emptiness that lingered, a void where everything should have been. Ethan descended last, his movements languid and deliberate, as if the weight of the world pressed upon him. He averted his gaze, avoiding my eyes entirely. He sat across the table, his meal untouched, a silent tension hanging in the air. My gaze remained fixed on my plate, unwavering and intense, as the world around me faded into the background. Mark attempted to share the tales of his journey. He inquired of Ethan about his experiences at school, attempted humor that fell flat. Silence enveloped us, a heavy shroud that stifled any hint of laughter. After dinner, Ethan vanished into the shadows of the staircase, leaving an air of mystery in his wake. Mark's eyes pierced through me, his gaze sharp and unyielding. "Is everything all right?" "Indeed," I remarked. It was all too swift. Exhaustion weighs heavily on my shoulders. He held back, choosing silence over inquiry. He never did. Yet, an undeniable sensation coursed through me. A chilling unease crept over him, a whisper of something amiss lurking in the shadows. Insufficient evidence to cast blame upon me, just enough to ignite curiosity. That night, as Mark's hand sought mine in the darkness of the bed, a shiver ran through me, and I recoiled once more. I mentioned that a throbbing pain was consuming my head. Silently, he turned away, the weight of unspoken thoughts hanging in the air, drifted into a deep slumber. As I lay there in the suffocating darkness, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, I could feel the tempest brewing within me, a storm raging with an intensity that echoed through my very soul. The days that followed descended into a deeper abyss. Ethan hardly uttered a word to me. His eyes, once radiant with warmth, now bore the weight of confusion, mingled with a piercing sense of betrayal. I had offered him a piece of my heart, only to cruelly rip it away. I allowed him to think there was a doorway, only to bring it crashing down behind him. He felt a calmness wash over him. He felt nothing but warmth. He was wounded, both inside and out, and it shattered me. I fought to wipe it from my memory. Yet, each room echoed the secrets of our actions. The worn, inviting couch sat in the dimly lit room, its fabric whispering secrets of countless stories shared and memories forged. Shadows danced across its surface, hinting at the lives that had unfolded in its embrace. Each crease and fold a testament to laughter, tears, and the passage of time. The dimly lit hallway stretched before her, shadows dancing along the walls as the air thickened with anticipation. The staircase loomed ahead, its worn steps whispering secrets of the past, beckoning the curious and the brave to ascend into the unknown. In the dim light of the bathroom, the mirror revealed a stranger staring back at me, her features foreign and unsettling. I drifted through life, a mere specter of who I once was. The guilt weighed heavily on my soul, a relentless burden, yet the ache within me throbbed just as fiercely, the deep, haunting ache of a truth that seemed tangible, despite its inherent wrongness. Silence enveloped me, a heavy shroud that kept my thoughts locked away from the world. They are not my friends. He's not my husband. I hardly recognize who I am anymore. So I donned the guilt that clung to me like a second skin, unseen by many, yet ever present, a haunting reminder of my choices. And then there was Ethan. He fell into a deep silence, drawn away, as if he were bracing against the force of my decisions, desperate to shield himself from the tumult they unleashed. Or perhaps at last, he truly recognized me for who I really was. A woman adrift in the vast expanse of her own desolation, yearning for a flicker of warmth, even if it seared the soul. This is a secret I've kept buried deep within me. Not even my therapist could understand. It has dwelled within me for ages, a relentless force pressing against my ribs, a secret desperate to escape. But tonight, I had to set it free, allowing it to unfurl in the shadows. Not for absolution. Not for salvation. Yearning to be heard. At times, the burden we bear in solitude grows more oppressive than the sin that spawned it. I'm weary of bearing this burden in silence. Did I make a mistake in what unfolded? Or was I merely a soul, yearning to be noticed in a world that often overlooked me? To feel the brush of a hand, to experience a spark after an eternity of numbness. Uncertainty lingers in the air, a heavy fog that refuses to lift. Yet, I am aware of this truth. It's simple to claim how you'd react until you find yourself alone in that dimly lit hallway, fingers poised on the cold metal of the doorknob, and your heart shatters within your chest, overwhelmed by a realization of emotions you never knew you could feel. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever stepped over a boundary that you couldn't return from? Have you ever gazed into the mirror, a stranger staring back, and questioned, who have I become? What would you have chosen if you were in my shoes? And if this tale stirred something deep within you, if it caused you to stop in your tracks, stirred emotions within you, and unearthed a long-buried fragment of your past self, then share it with the world. Embrace the thrill of this video. Pass it on to someone who may be bearing their own unseen burden. Subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga, where we unveil the hidden truths that remain unspoken, casting light on the secrets that lurk in the shadows. Deep down, we each carry tales that haunt us, stories we fear to unveil. Yet, perhaps in the act of sharing, the journey toward healing truly unfolds. And if you take away nothing else from what I revealed tonight, hold on to this. Loneliness gnaws at the soul, a perilous craving that can consume even the strongest of hearts. Should you choose to turn a blind eye, to act as though it's merely a figment of your imagination, it will begin to gnaw at the very essence of what lies nearest to you. Even if it's a path shrouded in secrecy. Even if it's an object that was never intended to be disturbed. Even if it shatters you to pieces. Take action now. Don't linger in the shadows, waiting for your moment to be noticed. Whisper your words into the silence. Experience. Extend your hand, grasping for what lies just beyond your fingertips. Before the silence consumes you whole,